And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Pace and Johnson
with a cinema review.
It is Monday, September 25th, 8 EST, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Cinemaster's Reviews. We got two exciting reviews coming up this night. First, Expend4bles or Expend4bles, with how the movie is titled. Still hate that. The fourth entry in the Expend4bles franchise, as well as the first ever re-release of a film I'm ever reviewing, and that is the 40th anniversary of Stop Making Sense, the concert film from the Talking Heads. But joining me to review Expend4bles, you last saw him when he came on to review Oppenheimer, my current favorite movie of the year. The one, the only, the big chill himself, Mark Menchaca. Mark, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I find it very interesting that the two movies you have me on, Oppenheimer and this.
Yeah, not to spoil anything, but kind of on different sides of the quality check, if you will. But I'm just going to close my window real fast. I usually do that before the show. I'll just take care of that right now. And let's just head right into our first movie, and that is Expend4bles 4. No, I'm not going to be calling it how it's spelled because that is stupid. This one, once again, sees Sylvester Stallone and Jason Statham playing their characters once again of Barney Ross and Leo Christmas. And wouldn't you know it, they're still expendabling. They're still going on missions. And this time they're hunting down a criminal called the Ocelot, someone that Barney Ross has had a very checkered history with, going through. Tragedy strikes on their first mission, and a lot of stuff starts going down. Very few of it good. Mark, I'm not going to lie. I have not seen Expend4bles 1, 2, or 3. You are someone who has used Jason Statham as a strength in certain trivia matches, so I'm going to guess you probably have. What has been your opinion of the franchise as a whole up to this point?
It's weird when to think about it, because I was on call, one of our friends, Tim Bracala, and is right before, we're chit-chatting, and he's talking about this movie. And he's like, bring it up. I know Mark loves these movies. And I thought that was a weird statement. It's like, whoa, like, I've seen these three movies. I don't know if although I did sit there and think about it, like, I've watched all three of these in the theaters. And I think including this one, I saw them opening weekend. So I don't know. I watched the first one. It was the last movie I saw with my hometown friends before I left for college. It was that summer, and I liked it a lot. First time I saw it, and obviously, it's exactly the movie that you think it is. Along with the second one, it is you and your buddies gathering up all your favorite toys, going over to a friend's house, and having yourself like the toy civil war, where you have Optimus Prime and the Thundercats with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles going to battle with the X-Men and the Power Rangers. Like that's what these movies are. Like they're not great writing. They're not necessarily great acting. Like honestly, like most movie things, they're not great at. But you know what? They get everybody together and they blow some shit up, and it's usually a fun time.
Yeah, from what you said, I've always liked the idea of these movies. I like getting these old action stars, most of them old action stars, some new action stars, and they just put them all, like you say, essentially into this like big melting pot and have them fight. That's usually what the movies have been. This movie is essentially like, it's what you said, but with the fourth one now, it's, okay, let's take one Ninja Turtle now, one Thundercat, maybe you get He-Man, and that's all you got, because no one else really wanted to return for this movie. And from the energy that all the cast members are kind of giving this movie, you can kind of tell, because I'll be honest, I think one of the reasons why this movie doesn't work is you can tell just the energy and just the love behind what I would assume what used to go into these movies is just kind of gone. And now with Stallone, Statham, and Lundgren returns for this movie as well, they're essentially just there to get like a paycheck, and you can very clearly tell that they don't really care anymore. I was not a big fan of either the returning cast members or just like I just thought the new cast members were kind of underwhelming as well. Like 50 Cent was your big grab for this movie. And I'm like, this is where we're going. Okay, what did you think about the cast of the Expend4bles as a whole?
I mean, you kind of said it before. Just take a quick step back. The casting is usually like the fun bit, especially like whenever we got to like 2, when just like everybody is in that. Anybody that you remember from a action movie is in 2, and we get to 3, which honestly, like the dumbest thing about 3 is like, oh, we're gonna bring up new action stars, which like nobody was clamoring for Kellen Lutz to be the new action star. Like it's silly, but we get to this movie and I'm watching it and like, oh, Randy Couture's still here. Like, okay, that's a little weird. And then I'm sitting here and thinking, oh God, did Terry Crews have something better to do? Like Terry Crews in it. Like I think that's like the biggest sign that Terry Crews like, nah, man, I'm not gonna do this. Like I'm good. And
yeah,
go ahead.
I was looking up stuff today about like why certain cast members didn't come back. Like Schwarzenegger said, like, I hope it's good. I don't want to do it. Like that was his literal quote of, I hope my friends have a good time making this movie. I personally do not want to make it. I don't really want to get into this. The reason why apparently Terry Crews wasn't in it, kind of gross, honestly. Some stuff with Stallone's agents, allegations made there. I don't really want to get into that, but that's the reason why he's not in it. But yeah, the other major like get for the cast this time is we are introduced to Leo Christmas's new girlfriend, played by Megan Fox this time. Her name is Gina. And my God, the romance between these characters suck. Like from the first moment they're introduced, they're arguing. She's essentially just like throwing stuff at him because she hates his line of work, even though we essentially kind of get like Gina used to be an expendable. And with what they do later on in the film, it makes no goddamn sense. Like, just to not go into spoilers, Barney is taken out of commission in this movie. You know what, screw this. I'm just going to get into this. 30 minutes into this movie, I'm sorry, like 30 minutes into this movie, Barney dies while trying to take down the Ocelot, which I'll get into that later. And we're like, okay, so who's going to be the new leader of the team? Because we're told Leo is not responsible enough to be the leader, which, okay, that makes sense. So is it going to be Lundgren? Is it going to be Randy Couture? No, they decide to make Megan Fox's character, the person that we've only just been introduced in this movie. She is the new leader of this team. Makes no gosh dang sense. What did you think about Megan Fox's character in this movie, Mark?
Dumb. I mean, like it just like it. I thought it maybe would have been better because, like, I'm not 100% sure about this because, like, I know for a while there were talks about doing like a female Expend4bles movie. I'm not sure how far that got off the ground, but if it were like, I don't know, like somebody of some action ilk, of like if his girlfriend was like Mila Jovovich or something, I was like, okay, that's really stupid, but that kind of makes sense. Like Megan Fox, like I mean, like are you trying to sell me on like the 2 Transformers movies that she did? Like kind of makes her like action oriented. Like I mean, yeah, I guess like. It's a bad fit anyway. Like, I mean, we know why she's there. I mean, there's no other reason, but I mean, it's just like, I mean, I can hardly put it into words, like just because I mean, that is the main reason why you go to these movies. You go to these movies to kind of see who you're going to see. And you mentioned Schwarzenegger not being there. Like Jet Li was like one where in all honesty, watching the movie, Jet Li was pretty checked out of these movies since 1. Like they got him back for an action sequence, a movie. I think he more or less told him, "Listen, you got me for a week. Like you better use it well because day number 8, I'm on a plane. I'm out of here."
Yup. Yeah. Other new cast members. The main person that plays like the villain we are following throughout the majority of the movie. Iko Uwais, most prominently known from the Raid movies. I think he's fine in this movie. He gets the job done. Probably the best part of this movie, I weirdly was kind of interested in Tony Jaa's character. We learned that he used to have a history with Barney when Leo meets him in a foreign country. I found his character kind of fun and probably the most enjoyment I got from it. We are introduced to a new, like, I guess, not leader of the team, but like sponsor of the team. And the second this character is introduced, you know he's the person that's going to be the main villain. Like we are introduced to a big plot point earlier on in the movie that the Ocelot is someone who is probably an inside agent. And the second this actor is introduced and you see how big they are, I'll be honest, their name is on the poster. So if you go through the poster, you can see who it is. But the second they're introduced, I'm like, you're going to be the bad guy because you're always the bad guy and stuff. What did you think about this villain twist towards the end of the movie?
To be honest, sometimes I'm pretty bad at seeing these, but usually I'm sitting in the movie and, we're getting into the third act. I'm like, okay, there's not like some crazy like cameo from some well-known actor that we thrown in here. There's a good chance it's going to be somebody that we know. And it's like, this guy is the obvious choice. Like, why not? And then it turns out to be him, which, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just like, okay, what? Like, I mean, you're pretty checked out by that part of the movie because, I mean, you mentioned Tony Jaa, and like he's like a fine character. Like I want to say like he's kind of like, I don't know what they tried to do with Wesley Snipes or like Antonio Banderas in the third movie, but it's like they clearly don't really have much for him. They don't really have much of a character for him. Like I don't really know what to get. They don't really have much of a character for anybody, and like they didn't, which. It's not like it was present before, but like whenever you're sitting there kind of, because usually at the very least, these movies would give us at least like one good action sequence to kind of, to hang their hat on. I think the first one has like kind of this big island shootout. The second one has this really big airport fight scene where like everybody gets involved. It's really, and even though I think the third movie's kind of terrible, at least like they have like this really big hotel fight scene where like the new guys and the old guys like are banding together to fight off Mel Gibson's army, which is honestly pretty neat. But I mean, I know we have to talk about this because I think it was the main thing that people brought up just right away was the CGI.
Yeah,
we gotta talk about it.
Like, okay, yeah, I was gonna move into the direction of this movie. This movie is directed by Scott Wagg. The only other major movie he directed is Need for Speed, and I'll be honest, this guy cannot direct action for shit. I think the worst part of this movie, some of the worst green screen effects I think I've seen in a blockbuster in a long time. Like, there are shots in this movie that look that like. Shots from Spy Kids look better than this movie. Like I said that in my Letterboxd review, and I stand by it. The effects in Spy Kids look less cheap than the effects in this movie. Whenever there's like an explosion, it looks like an explosion you would see from like a PS2 game. I think CGI blood sucks like 90% of the time, and I just hate how this movie does like CGI blood squibs because it just immediately takes you out whenever you see it. But yeah, just every single time we have like characters talking and they're supposed to be and the horizon is supposed to be behind them, and it's so clear that they're just in a Hollywood soundstage in a studio. Just yeah, like you said, I think if there is this movie has a lot of problems. The CGI is easily the worst part of this movie. Do you want to say anything else about it?
I mean, there were Sharknado sequels that I think looked better. And honestly, like, because I know, like the easy thing to grasp on is like, oh, like the battle sequences look really bad. Which okay, they look terrible. It looks like they forgot that this movie was coming out on Friday, and they finished it Thursday night, and like, well, it looks good enough. Send it to theaters. But I think the thing that, because you know what, like on some end, I get it. Like, you know, you got to film like a plane crash or like cars driving out of a plane. Like, you know what, maybe, you know, not in the budget, whatever. We didn't have time. I understand CGI in that, but there is a fight scene in a bar at the very beginning of this movie, and at the very end, you see it. It's like there's a clear CGI background here. I mean, I don't know if they shot this in New Orleans, probably Georgia, wherever the fuck. You're telling me that you couldn't get a fucking dive bar to shoot a scene out of? Like, that's the thing that bothers. Like, it's just needless CGI that you could have easily. Like, it reminds me of, like, you remember in the new Magnificent Seven, like at the very end where like they show the graves of the people that died, and it's like they CGI'd the hill. Like, you guys couldn't find a fucking hill to shoot this.
No, like for me, the whole thing is like, okay, if you have bad CGI in your action scenes, that's annoying. But you know what? That's one thing. I'm gonna like directing action is hard. Fine, you failed there. I'm sure you at least tried to put in an effort. But when you have just two characters talking outside and you can't even make that look believable, you have an issue. Like every time we are in a plane, you know you're not in a plane. Yeah, like you said, you're in a dive bar and it just looks like you're on a set. It just looks so cheaply made. And you would think like, oh man, they really slashed the budget down for this movie. This movie has a budget of $100 million. There is no excuse. When like, and obviously this movie is 10 times better than Expend4bles, but like when you have Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was made for a fifth of that budget, and that movie looks as good as it does, and you can't make this look even a hundredth of that good, you have an issue. You have a very clear issue. And I just think about the whole look of this movie, and I just think about how the whole second half of this movie is just set on this one convoy, and we learn that there's like a nuclear bomb on the convoy, and we need to get off this, and we need to find a way to redirect the convoy and also get off before. It's essentially, hey, what if you took the first mission of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare and turned that into the entire second act of your movie, where you're just on an aircraft carrier and you're just trying to, and you find a bomb on it. And I just found the second half of this movie just like extremely boring. What did you think about just the whole pacing of this movie, Mark?
I mean, I think usually, like I said, to some extent, this franchise was usually able to hang its hat on, you know what? We're fun movies.
Yeah.
We're going to do, like, we're going to give you one big blowout action sequence, and we're going to give you, like, a handful sprinkled out here. Like, I think there's like, what? There's, like, 3 set pieces in this. Like, there's, like, the one at the very beginning, there's the main one, and then they kind of have, like, the one at the end. Like, there's no real, like, thing here that's like, okay, we're gonna, you know, just have like I don't know, like Dolph Lundgren, like, you know, punch a dude's head off, or, you know, we're gonna have like Randy Couture, like, you know, shotgun blast. Like, it just feels like it completely lacks any energy or creativity, because at the very least, we put in all these charismatic people in the room, and we're gonna get something out of it. Although we just talked about the cast, like most of the charismatic people are gone. Like the big name they have left, who's really kind of the star of this, is Jason Statham. And honestly, like the majority of this movie kind of plays out like a bunch of the forgettable 2010s Jason Statham action movies.
Yeah, Jason Statham's character of Leo Christmas is definitely the main character of this movie. The movie is definitely more focused on him, which on the one hand, considering he is like 20 years younger than Stallone, it kind of makes sense that we would start moving towards him to do most of the heavy lifting in the action. but it still doesn't change the fact that it just comes off kind of boring. I will say this movie is produced by Jason Statham, and there is one scene where you can very clearly tell that he had his hands in the notes of this movie, because there's a scene where right after he's fired from being one of the Expendables, he takes a job at being a security guard for an influencer. And it is the most stereotypical influencer guy. Like, if you ask ChatGPT, hey, write an influencer character, just the most obnoxious, like, misogynistic character you can think of. And there's at one point where he starts recording Jason Statham's character. And did you see the comments that start coming in when he starts? Yeah. Comments of, like, I bet he has a big and the eggplant emoji. Just someone starts commenting, I think I'm pregnant. Like, that's maybe that's both maybe like the worst scene of the movie, but also weirdly the most entertained I was throughout the entire movie, where like this scene is so stupid, but it's so stupid I did kind of laugh. Like, did you ever have those types of moments in this movie?
Wish I could say that.
Fair.
That was honestly the moment where I'm like, okay, because you usually, you know, I try to see a lot of things, yeah. And usually, like, even if it looks kind of bad, like, I'll give it a shot. And usually in the like movies that look kind of bad, there's a moment in there where, like, man, what'd you do this for? why did you decide to take time out of your day to do this? You could have been doing a lot of different things, and you did this. And that social media. Like that social media party thing, like that was the moment. Like what? Like I don't even know what movie we're doing anymore. Like what is this shit? Like what? This could have been in plenty of other things. And yeah, like it's so like it'd be better if like it was funny, entertaining. It's just like no, we're just like it is what it is. Like I don't know what to go. I don't know what to do here.
Yeah, I think that is a scene in that movie where you could very clearly just take it completely out and you don't miss anything from the movie. I think maybe the worst scene of the movie is when Leo reunites with his Megan Fox's character right after he's kicked off the team. And and like the second they start having like some like violent tension between each other where they start fighting, you know exactly how this scene is going to end. They're going to fight to the point where eventually they start kissing, and then we cut to the bed because they can't show them having sex. And it's just pointless. It just feels like completely low energy. Like, we talk a lot about franchises that definitely feel like they've overstayed their welcome. I have not seen the other Expendables movies, but after watching this, I'm like, yeah, this franchise has definitely overstayed its welcome. Before we head into final ratings, Mark, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to discuss?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, just like a general final thought. I mean, and usually for these type of movies, like usually whenever Sid watches movies, I mean, you kind of point out a franchise overstay its welcome. I am kind of sitting here thinking to myself, like, who was this movie made for? Like, what was the reason? Why did we trot this out? And because it clearly wasn't like, oh, let's give the boys one last ride. Because like Stallone's like barely in it. Like he doesn't care. Like he doesn't want to be here. He'd rather make another god awful Rambo movie than do another one of these.
Probably, yeah. No, I couldn't said it better myself, Mark. Well, here at Cinemaster's Reviews, we do review movies on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes. 0 is just an awful, atrocious film, one that's going to stick with you for all the wrong reasons. And a 10 is an incredible film, one that you are going to remember for a long, long time for all the right reasons, and reminds you why you love movies in general. If you were to rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, what would you give Expend4bles for?
There was one thing I didn't mention in my letterbox. There was a small cameo of a man called it was a World's Strongest Man, Eddie Hall. I got to see him in a movie, which bumps this movie up, I guess technically half a star. Because you know what Expend4bles for? You get one videotape. One videotape is what you get for having World's Strongest Man, Eddie Hall, in your movie.
One videotape. I love it. I love it, Mark. Yeah, I think I'm going to go slightly higher than you. I think I'm going to go 1.5. Still an absolutely, like, abysmal rating, but I 1.5 just feels right. Yeah, this is everything wrong when people say like dumb action movies. Like, I'm all for dumb fun action movies, but this isn't fun. Like, I'm not having fun while watching this movie. I can just see that no one cares while making this. No effort was put into this, which you see from the direction and the CGI. It just feels lazy while I'm watching this movie. Yeah, I would absolutely recommend you do not go see this in theaters. And even when this comes out on streaming, just skip it. Like, this is a movie you can just pretend like this franchise never had a fourth entry, as far as I'm concerned. I think that's probably the way to go. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining me to review Expend4bles 4. Before we leave, is there anything you want to plug or promote?
No, I'm good.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Well, thank you so much, Mark. It's always a pleasure to talk with you about movies. I feel like we have a very like different like tone and like energy. Like I'm kind of like up here, and you're usually like chilling down here, and I think that makes for a very interesting conversation between the two of us.
I agree.
Absolutely. Well, have a great night, Mark. Thank you, Mark, once again for talking with me about Expend4bles 4. But we are going to be moving right into our next review of the night for a far better film. Spoilers, I guess. And that is Stop Making Sense. This is the re-release of the Talking Heads concert film from 1984. It's celebrating its 40th anniversary. Brand new restoration. I saw this in IMAX theaters. I usually don't talk about restorations that come to theaters, but this is just one I wanted to talk about, mainly just because I genuinely think I watched this movie for the first time about like 6 months ago, and ever since I saw it back then, even when I saw just a rip on YouTube, I thought this is one of the most like energetic and high octane things I've ever seen put to film. And watching it again now in this scenario in IMAX theaters with just the perfect sound system, it just feels like wow. It really was just like a thing of mastery that I feel like I was watching. Stop Making Sense was directed by Jonathan Demme, most famous for films such as Silence of the Lambs, Philadelphia, Rachel Getting Married, Something Wild. If you haven't seen Something Wild, that is an extremely underrated movie with Jeff Daniels and Melanie Griffith. Please check it out. Super funny movie. But yeah, this is a movie he made in the 80s with Talking Heads. David Byrne is like one of the most creative like musicians I think ever to walk the face of the earth. And I just think how he does this film, like, oh, you hear like, okay, it's a concert film. I may have seen I may have seen different concert films from different bands or different musicians. What exactly separates this? I think the way how this movie perfectly escalates and builds up to a way how it almost kind of feels like it has a narrative function. First off, this movie is only an hour and a half, so it doesn't overstay its welcome at all. You are in and you're out, and it just moves like that. But the fact of how this movie just starts so small, where it starts with you see just someone walking onto the stage, and you're just following them from their shoes, and you eventually realize that it is David Byrne, who is the front man of the Talking Heads, and it just starts out with him on stage performing to the crowd. He has a radio for accompaniment. He has the guitar, but he's the only one on stage, and he starts performing Psycho Killer. Then the next song, he is joined by the second band member, that being Tina Weymouth, who performs Heaven. Tina Weymouth is the bassist, so now you have live bass. The third song starts, and now you have the drummer who is rolled onto the stage, Chris France, and they perform Thank You for Sending Me an Angel. And the fourth song, you get guitarist and keyboardist Jerry Harrison, and they perform Found Job. I think the way how this movie just starts out just kind of small with its performances, and how it slowly starts to build to become bigger and bigger, till eventually when you have everyone on stage for the first major song, for the big, like, I don't even want to say climatic moment, because it happens 30 minutes into the movie and we still have an hour of the concert left. But when the entire band is finally on stage and we start performing Burning Down the House, which is probably one of Talking Heads' most famous songs, it's one of the greatest, like, in my opinion, moments in music, like music moments in movies. And I think it just how Demme just shoots this entire concert, how he's not just like filming just the stage and watching them perform. Like, it's edited perfectly. You're going from band member to band member, and they're all just having so much fun. and you just see how much energy this band put into all their performances, and then just how the concert film just keeps on going from there. You have it slowing down eventually for This Must Be the Place. You have it picking up again for Making Flippy Floppy. David Byrne, like I talk about people that are just energetic. Like, he does not stop moving throughout this entire film. Like, there are at points where he is literally just running around the stage, and you're just like, how is this guy not passing out? And it's truly insanity. And like, we'll never have another like frontman like David Byrne again. I know he hasn't passed away, thank goodness. But like, obviously Talking Heads doesn't perform anymore, and I just think how energetic and how much life he puts into this performance, into this movie, is just incredible. The performance of Once in a Lifetime, where he's just shaking on stage in those big glasses, I think is excellent. Of course, probably one of the most famous pieces of iconography from this movie is when he does put on the big suit, and when he just starts dancing in that big suit. It's just something that just like it's just something that you just remember, just an image that just feels so perfect from this movie. I think having performances from the Tom Tom Club, which was a side project from Tina Weymouth and Chris France, they did between a few of the Talking Heads albums, having just them come out and perform one of their songs, that being Genius of Love, I think is a really, really fun change of pace, and how would I describe it? Kind of like sets in everything before we have the final couple performances of the movie. If I were to nitpick one thing about this movie, and it's hard to find complaints about it because I do think it is fairly pitch perfect. The final two songs of the film are "Take Me to the River," and the final song of the movie is "Cross-Eyed and Painless." I personally would have swapped it. Cross-Eyed and Painless is an awesome song. It's super high energy. Once again, you have David Byrne just running around the stage, and just everyone is performing at the absolute top of their game. But like, I just think "Take Me to the River" just has like that super powerful nature to it, and it just all the lyrics to it just kind of feels like it has some sense of finality. And if I were to make the set list for this movie, I'm not saying in any way I'm smarter than the Talking Heads or Jonathan Demme by a long shot, but if I were to make one change, I probably would have swapped those and had "Take Me to the River" be the final song of the film. But yeah, there's not too much I can say that hasn't been said about this incredible piece of filmmaking. If I were to rank it on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, yeah, it sounds boring, but I'm going to say 10 videotapes. It's funny reviewing a restoration like this, because at one point I'm like, wow, it's going to be rare I watch something that I think is as good as Stop Making Sense. But seriously, if you have an IMAX theater in your town or in your city, and this is playing near you, please go see it, because there are very few bands like the Talking Heads nowadays. There were very few bands like Talking Heads back then. And I just think having this now in this format, in a restored format, and it looks as good as it does. Thank you so much, A24, for putting this in theaters, because more people need to see it. And yeah, it's one of it's the greatest concert movies of all time, one of the greatest movies of all time as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that does bring us to the end of our show tonight. Thank you all for watching this episode. Remember to like this video and to subscribe to the video store. We are putting out new videos every day, all movie and music related. A lot of great stuff. We all put so much effort into everything we do. Also, liking the video does help us grow our audience, so please make sure you do that. Next week, I'm going to try to review 3 movies, because there are 3 movies I do think are worth talking about. Saw X is coming out. I have a feeling I know who I want to get for that. So going to see if he can come on, as well as the creator. I've been hearing really great things. I think original sci-fi is something we need more of in general, just original IP in general. I just love seeing a big seeing a big original movie like this in theaters, I think is really, really exciting. And I also want to see Dumb Money, because I've been enjoying these like true story movies that have been coming out this year, whether it's Air, whether it's Blackberry. And this seems like another really fun movie. Craig Gillespie's kind of on a hot streak with I, Tonya and Cruella. So hopefully he keeps going well with this. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I'm Payson Johnson, the Cinemaster. And as always, watch more movies.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.